Hi, welcome to Jamaican Cooking 101. Today we're making plantain porridge and we will be using the green plantain, not the ripe one this time. Remember now that plantains are related to bananas and so they can be used in similar ways. So let me prep the ingredients and I will be right back. Welcome back. So I have prepped the ingredients and we are going to get straight into preparation. So I'm using a green plantain, and we have different varieties of plantains and different sizes. So I have some water. I've placed some water to boil for the plantain porridge. And we are going to just use one plantain today. We're doing a small amount of porridge, so I'm going in with a medium-sized plantain. So I've cut both ends off and I'm going to divide this plantain into 3 parts. I'm going to make sure I have some water to prevent the stain from sticking to my hands, as well as you could use some oil. So I'm using a paring knife to just cut along the veins or the creases of the plantain. And you can make as many cuts as you feel comfortable with and go right ahead and get the skin from the plantain. So I'm using the side of my thumb. I'm not using my nail, right, to just pry away the skin. And if the plantain is fresh, it will quickly peel away. Alright, so I'm gonna just quickly slice that plantain into my blender. Just slice it and add it to the blender. I'm using the bullet today, so it's gonna be quick and easy. So you go ahead and peel the rest of the plantain, and if you're having difficulties, you use a knife. Most times you find that at the top, both ends, at least both ends, tend to be a little harder to peel, but after a while you get the hang of it. Alright, so we're cutting it up into pieces that the blender can manage. Alright, now you don't use your fingernails to do it, you use the side of your thumb, and as I said, if you're having difficulties, just use the back of the knife to pry away the skin. Alright, now there are times when you might need to scrape away some of the excess stain, so you go right ahead and do that, and make sure you cut it up in pieces that the blender can actually manage. If you're using a normal blender, then you would first press on chop and then go ahead to liquefy or to puree. What you want is to convert those slices of plantain into tiny particles. Alright, so I've added water to cover, just enough water to cover the plantain pieces, and I'm going in for a few pulses to get those pieces into small particles. Now remember, you don't run your blender for too long. You make sure you don't go over 30 seconds and go right ahead until you get to the size particles you want. Alright, some plantains tend to be white on the inside and others tend to have a pink peach kind of look. So this one seems to be a creamy peach looking plantain, and this should give an interesting color in the porridge. Alright, so let us just check if this is at the consistency that I want. I want the particles super fine. So let me just run a few bits between my fingers to see. I would feel much more comfortable having it blended just a little bit more. So I'm going in to do that, and then we are gonna get this show on the road. Alright, so porridge, whatever kind of porridge that you're serving up, many times it's for breakfast, right? And so today I'm preparing this porridge for breakfast. I'm using nutmeg, maize, because it is said that this has more flavor than the actual nutmeg. So I've added it to the water that's boiling in preparation for the pureed green plantains. So I'm going to add the pureed green plantains to the boiling water, and I have to continuously stir. If I don't do that, then I'm going to end up with one big clump of plantain. So I'm going in and I'm stirring. I'm going to be cleaning out that blender jar. Make sure that I get all of the plantain in, and the continuous stirring will lead you to this point where you're noticing that the consistency has changed. It has thickened, and I've not taken out the nutmeg maize. I'm going to allow that to continue cooking in the porridge. Notice how thick it is. We have not added any cornstarch or any flour or anything like that. The plantain has natural thickening properties. I'm going to half mask the pot, or barely cover it, so that I don't have it running over. Even though I have a big enough pot, sometimes the minute you take your eye off it, that's the time that it boils over. Alright, I'm just putting in the whisk so that you can see how thick, what kind of consistency it has. Right, you could use the whisk to prevent any form of lumping, but I think we're good enough with the wooden spoon, so we'll continue using the wooden spoon. Alright, now if you're noticing that your porridge is not as thick, then you can go ahead and add thickeners, but if you follow the recipe on our website, then you should not go wrong. Right, so I have here some brown sugar. That's what I'm going to use to partially sweeten this porridge. I am grating in just about a teaspoon of nutmeg, well, just a tad bit less than a teaspoon of nutmeg, and I'm going to be adding some cinnamon. Why I'm doing it this way is because these two ingredients are very light, so when I mix them into the sugar, they are going to combine with the sugar and be evenly distributed in the milk. Now you use whatever milk you want, whether it's half cream, full cream, skim milk, coconut milk, whatever it is. Alright, I'm gonna add just a bit of vanilla, and I'm using the clear vanilla. You could use whichever one you want. If you have access to vanilla beans, then that's even better. Alright, so I've just used some vanilla extract or some essence of vanilla, and we're gonna add that to the plantain that's being cooked. Now we're gonna add it slowly, and we're gonna continuously stir. You can add salt to the porridge if you want. Salt brings out the flavor, but I'm not adding any salt to my own today. So you continuously stir as you add the milk, and remember, now you add the milk based on your preference, and you add based on how thick the porridge is. If you want it runny or you want it real thick, then you know how much milk to add. Alright, so I'm giving that a good stir, and you can see how creamy it is starting to appear. I don't want it to get too thin, so I am not adding too much milk. Alright, but I think it can take a bit more milk, and I'm going to use just a little bit of condensed milk to finish off the sweetness. You can go ahead and use whatever condensed milk you want, or you could sweeten it totally using the brown sugar or molasses or honey, whatever is your preference. Or if you're diabetic and you use an alternative sweetener, then you go ahead. But I'm going to be using just a little bit of condensed milk. For some reason, porridge is not porridge without a little condensed milk. Alright, so I'm going in with that, and as I said, there's no specific brand, but those we have on the island, so you use the one that you want to. or like I said, you can use alternative sweeteners. Alright, so I'm going to be stirring that in quickly and allow the porridge to cook for about 5 minutes. Remember now not to cover the pot. If you have to cover, leave it half-mast or partially covered. Now you can see how creamy this porridge is. It's like a custard. Alright, so after 5 minutes, this is what the porridge looks like. And we're gonna plate this. Well, we're gonna serve it up in a cereal bowl. If you want, you could serve it up in a cup, however you like it. Alright, so it is still thick and creamy at the same time. And I mean, this is a perfect start to your breakfast. Right? And many times we don't just have porridge for breakfast, but we jazz it up a bit and have some crackers or bread. Okay, so here we have it, or green plantain porridge. Go ahead and try this dish and let us know how it turned out.